This happened in early January about 2 years ago when I drove into the Northern Rockies to visit an old friend I had not seen in ages. For the sake of the story, I will call him Grant, and my real name is Jacob. We had been close since middle school, but after we graduated, he moved to a tiny mountain town with his parents, and I stayed in Boston for work. We never argued or had a falling out. We just slowly stopped talking. So when he randomly reached out and invited me to spend a weekend at his place, it hit me with a weird wave of nostalgia. He told me winter was the best time to visit because the snow made everything feel peaceful and isolated. I figured why not? The drive up the mountain was slow because the roads were covered in ice and slush, and by late afternoon, the sun had already set. By the time I reached his town, it was completely dark, the kind of dark where the only light is what your headlights manage to catch. He lived in an old cedar cabin halfway up a ridge, with only a handful of other homes scattered far apart. It was the kind of place people go skiing all winter, but I had never skied a day in my life. When I pulled into his driveway and he came outside to greet me, something about him felt off. Not bad, just different. He talked slower than I remembered and paused between sentences like he kept losing his train of thought. He helped me bring my bag inside. The cabin was warm, but it looked almost unfurnished. A couch, a wooden table, a couple chairs, and these old frame photos on the walls that looked like they belonged in a museum. He said I could sleep on the pull-out couch. Across from it was a long hallway that ended in complete darkness. The bathroom and two empty guest rooms were down there. He said the cabin used to belong to his grandparents before they passed, and that he lived there alone now. There was something about that hallway that made me uneasy, but I tried to ignore it. That first night we talked about old memories, but everything felt strained. He barely made eye contact and kept glancing toward the hallway like he was expecting something to appear. Eventually he went upstairs and I set up the couch and left a lamp on because the dark at the end of the hall was really bothering me. I fell asleep, but around 2 in the morning, I woke up to loud footsteps overhead. Not the slow kind either. These were fast, like someone running back and forth. The floor creaked like someone sprinted from one side of the room to the other, then stopped, then ran again. It lasted maybe 20 seconds and then silence. I waited to hear a door or anything, but nothing happened. I eventually fell back asleep, even though my nerves were shot. The next day was worse. Grant barely spoke, ate almost nothing, and looked distracted the entire time. Whenever I asked if he was okay, he just nodded. He kept walking down the hallway at random moments, and I counted at least 5 times. Since the bathroom was down there, I assumed that was why, but I never heard him flush or run water. A heavy snowstorm hit that night, and the wind slammed the cabin hard enough to shake it. I honestly liked that feeling. I got cozy on the couch, scrolled on my phone, and fell asleep. Around 2 again, I woke up to a scraping sound coming from the hallway. Slow, like something heavy being dragged. Then silence. Then a single tap on the wall behind me. I turned toward the hallway, and it was completely dark. I stayed still until I fell asleep again. The third night was the worst one of my life. I felt extremely uncomfortable around Grant by then. He kept staring at me too long, like he was trying to read my reactions. He went upstairs early and I stayed on my phone, questioning why I even came. Eventually, I laid down to sleep, sometime around 2. Again, I woke up, except this time I couldn't move. Sleep paralysis, my eyes were open, but my body was dead. I could not move my hands, my legs, nothing. And that was when I saw him. At the far end of the hallway, a dark silhouette stood completely still. I realized it was Grant, just standing there facing me, his face hidden in the darkness, his arms hanging straight down. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. I tried to move, but every muscle was frozen. He stood there motionless for what felt like a minute. Then he slowly turned to his right and walked into the last guest room, disappearing into the dark. When my body finally unlocked, I sat up sweating and shaking. I prayed it was just a hallucination from sleep paralysis, but something told me it wasn't. I stupidly whispered his name. No response. I forced myself to walk down the hallway. My heart was pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. When I stepped into the guest room, it looked empty, but in the corner near the window, someone was standing, staring outside. I could see the outline of a person. I could not tell if it was Grant. I backed out slowly, then ran upstairs to his bedroom.
He was asleep in his bed. Dead asleep. I shook him awake and he looked confused, irritated, like he had no idea what I was talking about. When I told him someone was downstairs, he refused, absolutely refused to go down there. He would not even look toward the stairs. His expression changed into something unreadable, almost like he already knew what I saw. When I asked firmly who was in the house, he just shrugged. That was enough for me. I ran downstairs, grabbed my bag and packed fast. I kept checking the hallway, terrified something would look back at me. I ran outside, brushed the snow off my car and got inside. Before pulling out, I made the mistake of looking back at the cabin. In the window of that guest room, a silhouette was standing perfectly still, watching. That was the last time I ever saw that place. Grant never answered another message. After I threatened a wellness check, he finally replied with one word: "I am fine." And nothing after that. Whatever happened to him, whatever was in that house, I want nothing to do with it. But the truth is, it still terrifies me.